Welcome to KeepItReal Studios, the only channel on YouTube that keeps it real. On December 27th, 2005, Man of Action aired a TV show called Ben 10.
Ben 10 is Cartoon Network's hottest new show. I'm the baddest Ben in town. I've kicked so much alien butt my feet hurt.
And Ben 10 was a TV show which ended up being loved by everyone all across the world. This show has been massively successful. It has multiple spin-offs, multiple toys released, multiple merchandise, multiple movies. Ben 10 was a massive hit all over the world and is drastically a part of everyone's childhood, and it's still massively loved to this day. To this day, you still continue to have fan arts of it. People create their own comics. A lot of people make YouTube and still break down this Ben 10 and this franchise to this day. You still have a lot of fans making their own short films. Ben 10 was a massive success and a massive hit with everyone all across the world. Just rewinding time and focusing just more on the original series created by Man of Action in 2005. This was when Ben 10 kind of started off. This is when Ben 10 got its name, and this is when fans started gradually loving the show more and more. And in the year 2007, they decided to create a live action movie called Ben 10 Race Against Time. And this was directed by Alex Winter and came out in the year 2007. Overall, this movie is drastically known in the whole Ben 10 community. A lot of people have kind of mixed feelings about this movie because some people, they still like the idea that it is a live action movie, but other people feel like it's not the best thing in Ben 10 at all. And today I'm just going to kind of give my thoughts, opinions, and just a breakdown of this live action movie. Before getting into the breakdown of Ben 10 Race Against Time, I kind of want to pinpoint a couple things I liked about just the way Alex Winter went around creating this live action movie. So starting off, I definitely love the costumes, props, and set designs. I feel like they did a fantastic job in this area of the movie. It really felt like a Ben 10 cartoon coming to life. So that's something I definitely appreciated. Some of my favorite things and props from this movie was the Omnitrix, and I also felt like some of the casting choices were very good, especially when it comes to Ben Graham Phillips. I feel like he actually looks like Ben, and he's probably one of the best actors in this show from translating to Ben to real life. I feel like he does a very good job. Even the actors that play Cash and JT, they look like real life Ben 10 cartoons come to life. So that's something I definitely appreciated. And I also love the side characters with the plumbers. I thought that was very interesting, and them getting reviews to be plumbers at the end of the movie was very amazing to me. And also, definitely the best thing to come out of this whole movie was the theme song. I never knew how much I needed a live action rock version of the Ben 10 theme song. If you haven't heard that song in a while, pause this video, go listen to it, and come back. So now, just focusing on the overall story of Ben 10 Race Against Time, I will give it a little credit here. I do like the premise. I do like the idea that Ben is going back to school. Summer vacation is done. And the thing is, when we actually start off the series, it's implied that he's been in school for a couple of days now. And I find that very interesting because we're so used to Ben just being on the road all summer. But now he's in school, so it's a different approach. You know, now he kind of has a secret identity. He has to go back into his old life. So instead of focusing just on Ben's aliens and just going on the road and focus on all the villains, we're focusing on just Ben's life, you know, just him going back to school, you know, teachers, bullies, all of that. So I found that very interesting, and it was just a good jumping point, having a good story and a good base around to the movie. Definitely do like that idea of Ben 10 Race Against Time. Just focusing a little bit on the Ben 10 Race Against Time casting. So starting off, focusing on Ben himself, Graham Phillips.
I really enjoyed playing Ben. I think that it was really fun being able to turn a cartoon character into a real life character, and being the first person to do that, you know, I got to add some aspects to it that, you know, no one's ever seen. So that was really fun.
Like I mentioned earlier, I'm actually a very big fan of Graham Phillips' portrayal of Ben. Obviously, there were moments where the dialogue wasn't so the best with him. You could definitely see him struggle in that area. But I feel like overall, you can see he's definitely trying. I feel like out of all the actors in this movie, he's definitely trying the most. And he does have moments where he does feel like Ben come to life. You know, there are moments where he's actually very reasonable, and I feel like I can relate to him as a character. Overall, he does a very good job. And he also looks like Ben too, so I'll definitely give him credit points to that too. Moving on to Haley Rams, Gwen Tennyson. Overall, I'm not the biggest fan of her. I don't want to blame it so much on her. I believe it's more on the script that she was given. She just feels like a generic girl character. She doesn't really feel like Gwen from the cartoon. I kind of blamed that a little bit more on the script and what she was kind of given rather than the actor herself.
I enjoy playing Gwen. She's very level-headed. She has a good head on her shoulders and very smart and always there to back Ben up.
Moving on to Lee Majors, the $6 million man himself who played Grandpa Max. If I'm being honest, he's probably the most different from the characters from the cartoon because I feel like he's nothing like Grandpa Max. But the thing is, I feel like he does a very good job. I feel like he makes Grandpa Max his own kind of character in a way. He doesn't necessarily feel like the Grandpa Max that we know and love, but he has his own portrayal on it that makes it quite enjoyable to me. Focusing a little bit more on just the other characters, Eon definitely stuck out to me a lot. But if I'm being honest, I was definitely not the biggest fan of Eon, especially the first time when I watched Ben 10 Race Against Time. To me, he didn't make that much sense. Because if we go look at Ben 10 in the original cartoon, all of Ben's different villains on his rosters, they're really unique and they all have a unique design to them. And they all have a unique kind of backstory. But if you look at Eon, I would say his backstory is quite impressive. And just later on in the franchise, how it's kind of like an alternate evil version of Ben. I do kind of like that idea. But the thing is, just his debut in Race Against Time wasn't the best. When I first seen him, he was just kind of like reminding me of Darth Vader, like a bad parody of him. And he had like a different mask that just looked like a bike helmet to me. So it was definitely hard to kind of take him as serious because it just looked like something I could just find at the local Walmart. But overall, one thing I did like about Eon is was throughout the movie he was just kind of stalking Ben and attacking him and just being a menace wherever. That's something I did find funny about Eon. And his powers are kind of cool. The time powers very, very interesting to me. But just overall his design and just him as a villain in Ben 10 Race Against Time was really my favorite. Now, just focusing a little bit on the problems that I had with Ben 10 Race Against Time. I felt like throughout just this whole movie, they were just missing small key details that made Ben 10 Ben 10. Starting off, Ben 10's the voice actor. So when Ben turns aliens, obviously he has different voice actors. But in the movie, they decided to change the voice actors. And like, just throughout the movie, you see little mistakes like that. The sound effect is different. The Omnitrix doesn't even turn red. There's just small little details they didn't really need to change in the movie and they decided to change it, and they can kind of throw you off because you are just so familiar with Ben 10 and you're expecting it to happen and it doesn't happen. Another thing I quite disliked about this movie were the aliens, and they absolutely do not hold up, and there's very limited aliens throughout this whole movie. So starting off, the first alien you had is Heat Blast. If I'm being honest, Heat Blast is probably one of the best designs throughout the whole movie. I feel like his body is very good, but his face just looked very weird. And just a little rant about the Heat Blast is probably one of Ben's most powerful aliens in the original classic series, and I feel like it could have just done a lot more. There were moments in the scene where he's just fighting people instead of just using his powers. I felt like just things like that were just unnecessary. Like it was just kind of disrespecting Heat Blast as a whole alien in general. Then moving on, I believe we had Grey Matter next. And overall, I actually like Grey Matter. I think it's probably one of the best transformation sequences. It does get a little creepy at some points and it does get a little bit outdated, but I feel like Grey Matter definitely looks the best. But it is kind of excusable because he is the smallest alien, so it's probably the easiest to kind of create and animate. But the thing is, even Grey Matter himself was a little bit different. He was very hyperactive as an alien. He wasn't just as smart and calculated. It was very hyperactive and just jumping and all over the place and just kind of like a little chipmunk. So that kind of threw me off. It didn't really seem like the Grey Matter in the classic series. Moving on to Diamond Head. Diamond Head didn't even... It just looked weird. The CGI, I know it is old and it did come out in 2007, but even for that time frame, I felt like, Diamond Head didn't look that good. They didn't really do the best with even Diamond Head, and I feel like just the voice acting still just throws me off a lot. And last but not least, we had Wildmont, and Wildmont was just horrendous, man. That's something that you see in your nightmares. Trying to animate the mouth was just weird. But overall, I get it is hard to kind of bring the aliens to life, but I don't know. I felt like they could have done a lot better with the alien. And I felt like they could have actually brought aliens that would have like been easier to create, like something like Ghost Freak. Ghost Freak can be very intangible. You could have had like Accelerate. Accelerate could be moving so fast, so you don't even get to see him most of the time. They could have kind of saved budgets with using those kind of specific aliens. Overall, those are just some of my thoughts and opinions and how I feel about the characters, just the design, and just the approach that they just went with creating a Ben 10 live action movie. And if I had to give this movie a rating, I would still give it a 4.8 out of 10. Definitely, it's not the best movie out there. If I'm being fair, this movie was definitely outdated. It did come out in 2007 and it was directed for a kid audience. So I'll say, in terms of just as a kid and entertainment, they did do their part. But just with years going by and just overall, it's definitely not one of the best movies out there. But overall, if you're still like a Ben 10 fan and you definitely have a nostalgic spot for it, even I myself can have a nostalgic spot for Ben 10 Race Against Time. I still remember the first time I ever seen the movie. It kind of blew my mind when I was younger. So I still kind of have a soft spot for it. But just overall as a movie and just looking at it through a retrospective, I don't think it's the best movie out there. But still quite enjoyable for your kid self. Overall, those are just some of my thoughts and opinions on just Ben 10 Race Against Time as a whole. Tell me how you feel about this movie. Do you still like it? Do you still find it enjoyable? Or is this something that you never want to see for the rest of your life? Tell me just some of your thoughts and opinions on this movie as a whole. That'll be it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. And don't forget to keep it real.